We are at war, and the war rages on. It is a war between young, conservative, American first individuals. Mostly young. There's millennials and Gen Xers and boomers in there too, but let's be honest, it's mostly Gen Z. It's us versus the older, more boomer, ivory tower, pearl clutching, flaccid conservatives. The ones who have conserved nothing of value in this nation, and the war rages on. So one of you commented on my channel, shout out to Connor Williamson, actually. He commented and he said, "Hey Tom, there's this video from Dr. Alan Harrelson, and I just want to get your thoughts on the video. You know, what do you think of this guy and what he has to say?" And so I thought, all right, I'll check out the video. I'll reply with my thoughts with a comment, you know, back to Connor. But then I saw the video and I was like, whoa. I think I've got to respond to this. I think I got to respond to this guy. Now, you're going to see in a minute, this is a older style conservative man who's got a southern drawl. You'll see in a minute. He's got that southern drawl on him. But he's making a video talking about Nick Fuentes and talking to Groypers, people who watch Nick, who like Nick Fuentes. And I know some of you who watch this channel, you guys don't like Nick, and you guys aren't Groypers. I get that. But I myself, I do like Nick, and I would consider myself a Groyper. I've said that a few times on this channel, and that's just kind of where I am politically. So I'm going to respond to this guy. Now, I haven't really done a reaction video quite like this before, so I'm thinking the best way to go about it is I'm just going to show you guys different clips, and I'm going to respond to those, and then at the end, I'm going to give like a summary, and that's going to be more of my traditional rambling content where I just kind of give my thoughts in entirety. I'm not going to respond to every little thing he says, but I will respond to quite a bit of it. So let's jump right in.
Well, it's time for me to address an issue that has sort of exploded across the country over the past couple of weeks. And that issue is Nick Fuentes in the Groyper movement. Groyper. Never heard that term until a few days ago.
Never heard that term until a few days ago. Never even knew who Nick Fuentes was. But I've done a lot of research, and I will give you my opinions, and you can see just how arrogant this guy is.
But I've been doing a deep dive into what Fuentes and his minions believe. And he's succeeded in using some kind of witchcraft to persuade a vast amount of young men in this country. I am very much concerned with the history of American conservatism. And this guy is rightly being canceled. Rightly.
You see that? And there it is. You don't even have to watch the rest of this guy's video. You don't have to hear any of his opinions on the matter. You just saw it right here. Conservatives, the boomer conservatives for so long that complained about liberals being snowflakes and wanting to cancel everything under the sun. Those same groups of people who cried and bitched and complained for years. Now when it favors them, now when they're the ones that don't like what people are saying, especially the younger generation, especially somebody like Nick, they think canceling somebody, shutting somebody up, taking away their right to free speech is the only thing to do. They think it's the right thing to do. They think it's the only way to save their conservatism. It's the only way to save our country is we just have to cancel people who don't agree with us. So much for the party of debate and reason, right? So much for the party of let's have a conversation and let's talk about the issue and let's see who has the best idea. The best ideas will win the debate. So much for that bullshit, right? Obviously, as soon as a real ideology or somebody who has real good opinions comes into the fold that doesn't agree with them, they will do the same bullshit the left does. They will cancel you. They will censor you. But let's move on.
I was listening to his story, and I was thinking, oh, man. Oh, yeah, he's got some good ideas. He's great. Why would anybody cancel him? Then I started to do a little bit more research. I was watching some of his videos, and my wife was present on the back porch as I was watching some of his stuff, and she couldn't handle it. and I can't even handle it anymore myself. The vile things that he has to say about women, the vile things that he has to say about the Jews as a people.
The vile things he has to say about women. My wife was perplexed. She was so offended. I was so offended. We cried together. He doesn't like the Jews. Man, this guy has no idea. And you're going to see him talk about throughout this video, because I've already seen the video, by the way. You're going to see him talk throughout this video about how younger Gen Z, they think they understand things. They don't understand things. They don't get it. They haven't experienced enough. And then, you know, this guy is going to come out and he's going to talk about how what Nick Fuentes says about women. It's so offensive. It's so bad. It's like, dude, have you seen what women in this generation say about men? Was this guy around a few short years ago when the hashtag #KillAllMen was trending all over social media? Did this guy see several women, Gen Z and millennial, brag about how the only time they get abortions is when they find out they're going to have a son? Does this guy not actually get the dynamics between men and women in Gen Z? There have been studies done on this, multiple studies from political standpoints, from sexual dynamics. Men and women in Gen Z are pretty separated. We're pretty divided for a lot of reasons, mainly being because great conservative men such as yourself have let feminism take root in this country and completely brainwash an entire generation of women and turn a lot of them into sluts and attention whores. I understand that's offensive for a lot of people to hear, and when they hear something that Nick Fuentes says about women or something really any guy has to say about women nowadays, they get offended, and they always talk about the men. They never talk about what women say about men. They never bring that up ever. It's just always about men and what we say and we're the bad guys. Well, just so you know, the reason why we have to say the things that we say, it's also a lot of the times it's jokes. That is true, but also there is some truth to a lot of this. And I've kind of mentioned it a few times on this channel. I'll talk about dating. You've seen in my past video, I've talked about different experiences and stuff. I always get people, no matter what generation they're from, agreeing with me on those things. Why? Because they're truths. There's a lot of truth to what Nick has to say about women. You might not like it, you might think it's offensive, but that's just the way it is. And no amount of you or your wife bitching is going to change the fact that that's what a majority of men feel like. And one of the things you'll notice if you watch his video, he brings up a fact a lot that like, oh, these young men, the only reason they're like this is because they watch Nick Fuentes. Just so you know, if this dude's watching this video, I doubt it. But if he is, there are a lot of people who are Gen Z who do not like Nick Fuentes and do not watch Nick Fuentes at all, and they still have almost the exact same opinions, especially on women. But of course, people like this guy, they need a scapegoat to blame all their frustrations on, take out all their anger on the younger generation, so they're just going to put it all on Nick, and they're going to ignore the fact that their failure has led to the next generation of men thinking a lot of these things. And that's actually a problem you'll see come up quite a bit in this video.
The foul language. Since when did we become a country where this type of behavior is acceptable in conservative circles?
When Trump won. When Trump won and everybody was mad because he got caught saying grab her by the pussy, and then all the conservatives came out and said, well, that's locker room talk, it don't really matter. And then, you know, it kind of just kept moving from there. Nobody cares about being formal anymore in the sense, because we all know that's just fake. Half of the time when you look at videos of older politicians being formal and presidential and saying the right things and having the right attitude towards conversation or whatever, they would do that and then they would go off and sign some policy that would skull fuck the entire nation. And they would do that like every week. So nobody cares how you say things or what you say. That pearl clutching bullshit doesn't fly anymore. Like, we don't really think it's that important. Because if our country is literally on the verge of collapsing, why the fuck should I give a shit about if somebody says naughty words? I say words like that all the time. Obviously, most of us do. And you could attest that to the fact that we grew up with South Park or Family Guy or whatever. Blame it on video games. I don't care. But the bottom line is we just do not give a shit. Because that type of thinking, that type of approaching politics has done nothing for us except make everyone's lives worse. And obviously that's not the only reason why that is, but it's a part of that problem. It's that people care about the wrong things. Does that make sense to you? Do you get that? So the younger generations, us having no future, yeah, we're not going to care about if someone says naughty words.
Well, I think he's starting to learn that it's not acceptable in conservative circles. Every major conservative publication or organization or institution has rejected Nick Fuentes. And I want to contribute my little bitty voice to that same rejection. Here's the kind of things I'm hearing from his followers. I did a little experiment on this channel. I put a short up, I put a couple of posts up saying that I think this guy's a lunatic. And I did not know that I had so many people listening to me who also listen to him. So there needs to be a culling process. And you're already convinced that Fuentes is the savior of America. Then I can assure you this is not the channel you want to pay attention to. If you're not willing to learn, if you're not willing to broaden your horizons and realize that just because you're a young man in your 20s, you don't have it all figured out. You do. I know. I was in my 20s, and I thought I had it all figured out.
It's so funny. This guy is going to talk to us like, if you're not willing to broaden your horizons or learn from somebody who's older than you, then you got no thing coming. It's like, dude, I could say the same thing about you. If you're not willing to broaden your horizons, Dr. Allen, if you're not willing to listen to somebody who's younger than you, because it turns out that when an entire generation of younger men who are frustrated start saying certain things, that is an indication of where the country is going to go, because the younger men are the future of that nation, because they end up becoming the leaders of that nation. So it might do you some good, boy, to pipe down and start listening, because it seems like you ain't listening enough. You do watching a few clips of Nick on the internet, and you don't be knowing what you talking about.
Fuentes is appealing to young men who are frustrated with the economy. They're frustrated with the government. They're frustrated with modern life. Well, have you thought about the fact that you're paying attention to a man who is making hundreds of thousands of dollars off of your support for him?
You mean like every other streamer? Because Nick is a streamer, and he streams on the internet, and he has almost 500,000 followers on Rumble. This guy's talking about how, like, all these publications canceling Nick, all these conservative publications. Dude, every conservative speaker, anybody, yourself included, who talks about politics or anything makes money. And you'll see in a second what this guy's going to talk about.
Oh, he's not hurting at all. He is in a very good economic position. I watched his self-made documentary a few days ago, where he explained how he was the most canceled man in America. And he was whining about the federal government taking $500,000 out of his bank account.
This man was whining because the government stole all his money from his bank account. Can you believe it, folks? Can you believe these young Gen Z whippersnappers that don't want to pipe down, settle down, and listen up to older folk? Can you believe, like, the government take all your money? It's like, and you're mad about that? They're going to use that money and send it over to Israel. You should be proud they stole your money from you. So first of all, the $500,000 he's talking about, that is a real thing, but this guy doesn't understand the fact that pretty much all of that money came from one person. It was one guy who gave Nick a bunch of money because he was fixing to die, I believe. And I'm not going to go into all the details about the story, but he had a lot of money. He was fixing to die. He believed in what Nick was saying, and he gave him the money. So it's not like that money just came from all of his people over the course of his career. It came from one person that watched him and believed in his message and had no more need for the money. And even if it was $1 million or $20 million, why are you so gleeful about the fact that somebody had all their money taken from them by the government? Do you like that? Does that, like, turn you on? The government stole his money. That makes me hard as fuck, boy.
I'm sure he made it back. $500,000 at like 21, 22 years old. Yeah, you're following a man who is using you to make money off of you. That's what you're doing. I don't think he cares about you at all. I don't think he cares about the United States. I don't think he cares about this country. I think he is capitalizing upon your emotions to make money for himself.
Then again, like I said, it's like, dude, every single person who streams or makes content on the internet that has a large following makes money. I don't know what this guy watches. I don't think he watches Daily Wire or anything like that. But do you think any of the conservative publications or YouTubers you watch that are big, they don't make money? That's the reason why they have the studios that they have, the publications that they have employees. You think they just pay their employees with goodwill? We pray for them. That's how we pay our employees around here. We ain't got no money. We don't make no money off our politics. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, boy?
And why is this dangerous? Well, it reminds me a lot of how Hitler came to power.
Here we go, dude. Not even 6 minutes into the video, bro, and he's already gonna be like, he's Hitler.
You know, there's just something wrong with a man saying that he's an admirer of Stalin, and there's something wrong with a man saying that Hitler is just a cool guy. You know how Hitler came to power in 1933, became Chancellor of Germany? He capitalized upon economic and political instability. He used propaganda to gain influence among the young people in Germany. So in 1933, he becomes Chancellor. By the time he invades Poland in September of 1939, his largest group of supporters, were young men who were coming of age during the...
You mean to tell me that Hitler, when he got to power, is because he had all the youngins on his side? All the young boys were supporting him and stuff? It's like, man, dude, you think, why would all these young people support Hitler? It's almost like their country was completely destroyed and degenerate, and they had no future, and their money was completely worthless, and they had no jobs and no purpose. And as a country, they're humiliated because they lost the First World War, and, you know, it's almost like they had no future at all, and they were just mad about that, and they wanted things to change. It's almost like that happened, but nah, like that's not the reason why, though, is because everybody knows, dude, everybody knows, this guy especially, this is how Nazi Germany became a thing. First, it was Germany, and then out of nowhere, Hitler became chancellor, and then that's where it started. That's how it happened, man. There's no lead up to that, dude. It was just, he appeared out of the vapor of the air. He came from hell itself, dude. He appeared from hell. He was conjured by the Democrats, and they conjured him in Germany, and that's how he became powerful. And he used witchcraft and voodoo and shit, and that's how he took over the minds of the young German population, because there's no reason they would have followed him, except if that's the case. I mean, back me up here, like historians.
And what I'm hearing from the people who support Fuentes is platitudes. I don't hear any argument that is based in independent thought. I hear a regurgitation of what you're learning from a 27-year-old upstart in Chicago.
So like I said, this guy is kind of using, and I understand he's addressing Groypers, but a lot of people are getting the idea that anybody who thinks like this is automatically a Nick Fuentes fan. Like I've said, that's just not true. There are a lot of people who don't like Nick, who don't watch Nick, and they still believe a lot of the same things he says. They have disagreements, obviously, or they just don't watch him. But ultimately, this isn't how Groypers just feel. This is how the majority of the country feels, even for people who are liberal. You know, you would be surprised on a lot of random things, liberal Gen Z people will have the same opinions as conservative. Now, not enough, but there are similarities. And this guy's just kind of grouping it all together and saying, well, that's because of a guy like Nick. Well, no, that's because our society is failing, and anybody who wants to have a future and who isn't just completely engorging themselves in weed and alcohol and sedating themselves beyond belief, people who actually want to make something of themselves, they can't really do that because they're looking towards the future and they don't see anything fruitful. They just see slavery essentially through debt and no way to possibly provide for a family in the way they were provided for, or even start a family, really. You know, these are things people want to have. They want to experience these things. They want to have kids and they want to give their kids the best, but most people can't even afford to live. But of course, it's Nick Fuentes' fault, right?
This individual has no wife, no children, no responsibilities, no idea about the challenges and rewards that come with being a father.
So this doesn't really make sense either, because I get it. I understand. Like, a lot of people would say, oh, well, you don't have kids, you don't have a family, so you don't know what you're talking about. And I mean, I don't have kids, I don't have a family. But I will say this, I have friends that are a little older than me and also the same age, and they have wives and they have kids, and they agree with me on pretty much all the same issues. They think like almost verbatim the exact same as me. In fact, most of them watch my channel. So I don't understand this argument. I get having kids will change your perception on a lot of things and make you a different man, because that's what's supposed to happen. But acting like that's the only reason why anybody who watches Nick or listens to Nick thinks the way they do is retarded, because, dude, there are older people that have families. There's literally entire families that watch him. And all of my friends, pretty much, that have kids that are married, they like him too. And they listen to him too. So what do you have to say to them? Do they just not have enough kids? Is that what it is? You're supposed to have at least 20 kids before you can have any opinions on the political state of this here Americas.
There's a reason the Constitution of the United States makes it impossible for a person to be the executive if you're not 35 years or older. There's not enough experience yet.
See, that's true. That's actually the exact reason why that is. But this guy's using this as an example for younger people not knowing any better or something like that. It's like, dude, there are older people who are even more retarded than most Gen Zers. Those people can run. They can run for office. There are people who are running for president all the time. And they're even like, dude, Ted Cruz? The fuck is this guy talking about?
So here's what I've been told by the sycophantic mob who's following Nick Fuentes. One person told me the Constitution is useless and that it's no better than a piece of toilet paper. I'm going to wipe my ass with it.
That is an opinion a lot of people have, yeah. If the Constitution is essentially only ever being used to make our lives worse, obviously you're going to have a lot of people think that the Constitution is worthless. That's just a fucking given. This dude is just... He just has this idea that everyone's just angry all the time for no reason. Like, there's no reason any of these Gen Zers would be mad about any of these things other than the witchcraft of Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes will put a witchcraft spell, voodoo spell on these boys. It's the only reason they've been thinking like this. Then again, it's like I said, it's a generational divide. This guy lives in a completely different reality to what most young Americans go through. And most Americans in general, to be honest. And I'm not going to say I know who this guy is or I know everything about him. I don't. But obviously, you understand what I'm getting at. There's a divide. He doesn't understand the plights or like a lot of the struggles younger people go through. And since he doesn't understand those things or he has no knowledge of them at all, he just kind of thinks the only reason any of these boys are going to be mad is because they're just mad for no reason. It's like, that's not how we got here.
Another person told me that it's my fault, and it's the millennial generation's fault that these Zoomers don't have good jobs, they're not able to buy houses. It's my fault. Sorry, buddy, it's not my fault that you're a loser. It's not my fault that you haven't carved a path for yourself. I don't have anything to do with that. You think that just because you are in your 20s, that you think that your generation is the only one that has problems, that you're the only people who have to go through suffering? You're the only ones who know what suffering is all about? You just live a little longer and you'll learn exactly what suffering really means.
Well, it's not so much that we blame millennials. It's kind of more like boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials all together. And I mean, yeah, like you guys aren't responsible for passing policies or, you know, changing laws or whatever, but those are the three generations that have elected certain people into power, not even just on a federal level, but on a state level in cities. So even when it comes to like local government, where you have a little bit more say and control in who gains power and you can vote on propositions and all these different things. You guys have just constantly voted and elected people even on your own local terms that have just kind of made life worse in general. So it's not so much that we're blaming you directly. It's just more like, hey, you guys constantly elect the wrong people. And as a result of that, there are consequences because obviously everything's fucked. And just because we're mad about jobs, it's not so much that like we can't get jobs, it's that there are no jobs to get. A lot of Gen Z people go through all the advice that they're given to them, which is go to college, get a degree, get a career, and they can't even get jobs. Most people I know who went to college and got degrees don't even have jobs with their degrees. I know like 2 people, and the 2 people that have jobs with their degrees got degrees in the medical field, and they went to college till they're like 20, 26, 27. So yeah, those people obviously are going to be the ones that get jobs, but not everybody goes to college to become a doctor, because it turns out college isn't just for people to become doctors. It's also a place for people to become engineers and business majors and all these different things, and they go and they do all this work and they get these degrees and there's no jobs for them. And because of how bad the job economy is in this country, because of our leadership, they are competing with entry-level jobs at some places with older people. So it's like, yeah, you would be mad too if you couldn't get a job. You would be mad too if you were $100,000 in debt and you couldn't find work because you have to pay bills, because if you don't pay bills, your credit gets fucked, and then you can't get a good apartment, or you can't get a good car, or you can't buy a house because nobody can afford a house. But oh, thank God Trump's going to give us a 50-year mortgage. So it's like, yeah, like the younger generations are going to be mad, but that's always been a thing. There's always like the younger generation gets mad at the older generation, and there's a response to the differences. That's always like the case. Why do you think boomers did the sexual revolution? And why do you think feminism and all these things came from that? Because they were angry at their parents for being so traditional. It was a response. That's like normal. What is this guy not getting?
If you're 27 years old and you have no desire to start a family, you think that all the women, this is what Fuentes said on Harrelson's interview. There's so many women, they're just feminists now. They're feminist. They're feminist. You know, my wife was listening to that when I was listening to it, and she took great offense. But if you want to attract a woman, you better start straightening up your act.
Well, yeah, most women are feminists. That's not even like a debate. There's literally studies and data to confirm this. And the version of feminists that we have now compared to the version when you were probably our age, it's not the same. Like, we have women that constantly just sleep around. It's encouraged. They get abortions. It's encouraged. It's empowering. It's very ugly behavior, and it's not the behavior of a woman who would be someone's wife, who would be a good wife. So yeah, it's actually pretty hard to find somebody like that who isn't like that. Even in conservative groups, and even in like Christian groups or religious groups, it's very difficult because feminism is so rooted at the core of this nation, it's infested everywhere. But like I said, these people, guys like this dude, they don't understand that because they don't actually pay attention to what's happening. And then out of nowhere, they see somebody like Nick come along and they're like, oh, they're just reactionary. Well, of course they're fucking reactionary. Of course, the reason we feel the way we do is it is a reaction to the fucked up situation we are in. How is that even like an argument against it? Am I crazy? And him talking about how his wife is offended. Him and his wife were offended. They cried together or some bullshit or whatever.
You won't never get married with that kind of attitude. I don't notice any large following of young, patriotic American women following Nick Fuentes.
Because it's not for women. It's for men. That's like the whole point. It's for men and men's issues because for a long time, nobody was talking about those things. Those things only became very mainstream and relevant when men started to change. It's only a problem when young men don't do the things you want them to do. That's when you start concerning yourself with the issues that they're facing. You don't care about it when it's not important or relevant. So no, it's not for women. So you and your wife being offended over everything, pearl clutching, bitching about all this shit. It's like, let me tell you something, dude. You and your version of conservatism is going to die. It's going to lose. We are going to take it and we are going to fucking change it. We're going to mold it into something better. And if we can't do that, we're going to burn it and set it on fire because your version of conservatism has conserved nothing of value or tradition or decency for this country. It's done none of that. So if you and your wife are going to get offended over what Nick's saying, you best get ready because you're going to be getting a whole lot more offended in the coming years. All right? So you might as well, you and your froghorn, leghorn accent, your fucking wife better shut the fuck up. I say now $2 for a bucket of chicken now, boy. Extra crispy now, yeah?
Is he a homosexual? Is that the problem that he has? It sounds to me like he's pretty well a homosexual.
This guy doesn't just suck off women and doesn't just like bend over for women and he actually has problems with like feminism? Is this guy gay?
The things that he has said against women, against people in my generation, against Charlie Kirk, against Donald Trump. You know, Trump and Kirk got where they were because of hard work, because they genuinely love the country. Fuentes is a vagabond.
And you don't think what Nick has done is working hard? Guy got ostracized, thrown out of the Republican Party, blacklisted, banned, debanked, put on no-fly lists. People showed up to his house to kill him. All this stuff. You don't think it's hard work, him putting the amount of effort he has into his shows? Because that's ultimately what he is. He's just a streamer. It's not hard work to you, him working for his following, even though he got censored and canceled multiple times. I mean, even if there's somebody who had opinions that I completely disagreed with, and if they managed to do what Nick has done, I would still have some level of respect for them because obviously that is hard work, especially when you're having to play by different rules than everybody else because you get censored and you get banned. And you still manage to overcome a lot of that and amass a following. That's pretty admirable. But this guy doesn't see that. To him, all Nick is just somebody who popped out of the ether. There's no lead up. There's no build up to where it is now. And that's exactly like the problem. It's just this dude doesn't pay attention. A lot of people don't. And so when something comes from those issues and those problems that they don't pay attention to, they freak out and they start worrying because they're like, oh, fuck, where did this come from?
Well, I know many of you sycophants who follow him believe that this is satire, that he's simply using a sense of humor. It's not humorous to say to your followers that they should rape and kill in the name of Nick Fuentes. I don't care if he was trying to be funny. You don't say stuff like that.
I don't care if it's jokes now, boy. They ain't funny to me. They ain't my sense of humor, so it ain't okay.
You don't know the degree to which people who are listening to you may take that statement very seriously.
And I see what he's saying here. I get it. People are like, well, you have a big following. You shouldn't say certain things because you never know who's listening. And that is true. That is a point. But if you've paid attention to Nick and the way he's changed, he's obviously gotten a little bit more serious in what he says. And a lot of people would say, oh, well, it's still not good enough, or that's still not good enough. He still said things. It's like, dude, fucking suck a dick.
I have yet to find anybody who is able to show me that Fuentes is interested in preserving the Constitution. If you're not interested in preserving the Constitution and the vision of the founders, the heritage that we have inherited, then you are not conservative.
You mean the heritage that we've inherited that you guys have been giving away to foreigners? And that's why we're becoming a minority white population country, and it's essentially with the way things are going, we're just going to slowly die out, and it's going to go to Indians. Is that what you're talking about? It's like, yeah, we very much want to preserve that. That's what we're actually trying to do. It's just because of people on your side and people who think like you, we're going to have to do a lot of things that aren't necessarily constitutional to do it, more than likely.
He's not interested in America first. He's not interested in Christianity. He is interested in making money off of whatever he has to say to please you so that he can make millions off of your support.
Oh, that's why he got debanked and banned off of everything so he could make money? He got banned off of everything to the point to where he couldn't even make money by selling shit off PayPal. So that's a great strategy for him to make a lot of money, huh? And not caring about America first, dude, he literally is the reason why that's even a thing. Trump wasn't America first. He was Make America Great Again. That is his movement. It is the MAGA movement. And now that movement is Make Israel Great Again. It is Israel first.
Your generation is addicted to immediate gratification. I want what I want now. I want a big house. I want to be able to do this and do that.
I want to be able to have a family and raise my family. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that too much?
What happened to good manners? What happened to well-mannered conversation? And I'm tired of hearing people say, well, that's how Generation Z talks. That's just how they communicate with one another. Well, you need a swift kick in the pants.
Well, you need violence. You need somebody to beat the shit out of you. You need somebody to touch you in your privates, boy. You need to say, come over here, boy. I'm gonna touch you in your privates. Clean up that attitude real quick now. Yeah.
You need to learn how to behave. You need to learn manners. You won't learn manners by living a life through internet personalities. You only learn manners by living life around older people who are able to tell you that you're acting stupid. You're no different than all the other people on the left who have been claiming victimhood and grievance for the past several decades, pointing their finger at everybody else for their own problems.
You're no better than all the other people on the left. Fucking talking about canceling somebody. It's like, oh yeah, he's being canceled, and rightfully so. You're no better. You're on the internet. You live on the internet. Dude, you have no idea what life is, how life works now. The majority of politics takes place on the internet. The internet influences everything every day.
Fuentes didn't vote in the last election, the general election, and he probably didn't vote in the last general election. I do not take anybody's opinions about American politics seriously if they choose not to vote. You have no right to have a political opinion at all if you think you are superior to the voting process.
No, he didn't vote in the last election because he knew Trump was taking Zionist donor money. Like an insane amount, $230 million, just from one single donor, and he has multiple. And he also said last year, if Trump becomes president, we would get into a conflict with Iran. And that's exactly what happened this year. So that's why he didn't vote last year, is because he knew Trump wasn't going to do what he said he was going to do. He knew it was going to just be Israel first, and he was right. And he voted in 2020. He was at the Stop the Steal protest on January 6th. That's actually the reason why he got debanked and put on a no-fly list and banned from everything, because he was there at the protest. They didn't want to arrest him, and a lot of people say, oh, it's because he's a Fed and that's why they didn't arrest him. No, the reason why they didn't arrest him is because he has a following. They only arrested and imprisoned people who were there who were like nobodies. Because they knew if they take somebody like him or Alex or any of these people that have a following and arrest them, they're going to give them more power. So instead, they were like, well, we'll just cancel them. We'll just censor them. And I mean, that gave them more power eventually, yeah, but the only reason it did is because somebody like Elon Musk bought Twitter, and it kind of like changed things around when it comes to free speech. But like this idea that like, oh, well, he didn't vote, and so he doesn't have an opinion. Dude, that's so retarded, because it's like, bro, you had Kamala Harris, and then you had Trump 2.0, which was just completely bought out by Israel. Those aren't two good options. You can't really get mad at anybody for not wanting to vote when they understand those are the options you have. And everybody got mad at Nick for not wanting to vote for Trump. They were like, oh, he's trying to ruin it. He's trying to do this. And it's like, don't worry. He's not going to get us into a conflict with Iran. He's not going to do it. He's just not going to do it. And he did. So what the fuck are you talking about?
Every major conservative outlet, the National Review, First Things, the Heritage Foundation, they finally got their act together. And you think, well, those are all mainstream publications. They don't listen to our pleas and our plight, us young men in our 20s. I was reading books about American history when most of you were still in your mama's womb. And you're going to tell me that what I have to say is irrelevant because I'm not in touch with the current generation. Y'all think you got enough of experience? You think you're wise enough to make all the decisions you think you're going to be able to make decisions on a national level at that age? You got a wake-up call that can't come soon enough. Because it won't happen. You will not gain power. Groypers will not gain power. You are a cult. You will not do anything to change the culture of this country.
We've already gained power. Why do you think you're talking about us? Why do you think you're even talking about Nick? Why do you think the conservatives are actually freaking out? Because all of these young men, because that's what this is. This is reaction from them. He talks about how we're reactionary, how we're a reaction to everything that's going on. Bless your heart. Because you're a reactionary. This is what this is. And what the conservatives are doing now, what these boomers are doing now, is they're afraid. Because they know they're losing. Because they know everything they stand for and the way they do things has failed. And they are failures. And they have made this country worse because of their failures. And they're afraid because it's going to change. They're afraid because the younger generation doesn't think the way they do or say the things that they want to hear. And ultimately, this guy is out of touch, but more importantly, he's out of touch and he's afraid. That's essentially what this is. That's essentially what this boils down to. So that's why we have to understand, for the America First movement, the true America First movement, just know the other side of conservatives, the ones who put Israel first, the ones who don't acknowledge the real problems going on in this nation and don't do anything to fix any problems at all, really. They're afraid. They're afraid of us. They're afraid of you. And like I've already said on this channel, they're going to react and they're going to lash out, because that's what happens when you die. A lot of people I hear say on this channel, when I made that video talking about censorship, you guys said, well, that's the last stage of tyranny, is when they start freaking out and they try to censor everybody, when that version of power starts losing. And that's exactly right. And that's what's happening with them. That's what's happening with all these older conservative boomers. And I keep saying boomers, but I also mean guys like this. And when I say boomers, what I really mean are people who are just disconnected with the youth and just don't understand the future of this nation. They don't understand where things are headed. They're very closed-minded, and they're so arrogant, and they're so insufferably just full of themselves and up their own ass that they don't think they have to pay attention to all these other things going on. And the only time they do is when it's in their face and they have to. That's why all these people are talking about Nick right now. And that's why they're talking about Groypers now. That's why this guy's making this video now, because it's in their face. But if it wasn't in their face, he wouldn't know any of this stuff. He wouldn't know what was going on, because it's not important to them. Our problems, the fact that this country has no future basically means nothing to this guy. It means nothing to him, and it means nothing to these people. And they say that they care, but they don't. And ultimately, they're afraid. But these people like Dr. Allen, and he's not just a conservative, he's also an educated man. He's a doctor, he's got a doctorate. He's an educated man, but there's a perfect example to kind of sum up what type of guy this is. Someone left a comment on his video, and I screenshot it. And I'm going to throw it up right here. You see it's a big comment. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But a lot of the stuff that I actually think, this is spot on. This is a perfect, response to this guy's video. Talks about immigrants. talks about calling him homosexual or this or that because he's Catholic and he's unmarried at 27 is a very unintelligent take. Like, this is a very good, strong comment. You want to see what his response to all this is? This is his response. How old are you? I would prefer Dr. Harrelson, not Alan. I don't know you. Decorum, please. Fuck you. Fuck your decorum. Take your doctorates and shove it up your ass. No lube. Like, you're a bitch. And if anybody's gay, really, it's you. I don't care how many kids you have or how many times you get married or whatever. And your version of conservatism will die and it's going to change. What a self-absorbed response to a comment like that. Like, his age, the person who wrote this, their age has anything to do with the fact that they just deconstructed your whole video. But that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with this. You're no better than any of these people on the left who during COVID, anytime anybody had any objections to the vaccine or anything that was going on, they came out and they said, well, you're not a doctor. You don't know what you're saying. You don't have an education. Trust the experts. You're no different than those people. You're the exact same. And that's where a lot of these conservatives are going to start showing their true colors. You're going to start to see that they are the exact same as the other side. They will cancel you. They will censor you. They will treat you like you are nothing because you don't have a degree or that you're not old enough. They will talk down to you. All the same ivory tower, pearl clutching bullshit that conservatives were making fun of liberals for the past decade. Conservatives are going to start doing, and we've already seen it, and it's not stopping. But this Dr. Allen, I'm not even going to call you a doctor. I'm going to call you Allen because you're retarded, and I don't like you. I think you don't deserve any respect from anybody of my generation with the way you think of us and the way you respond to the difficulties that we're going through. And the fact that we don't have a future and our country is literally on the verge of collapse. But the main problem is the fact that we say fuck and shit. And the fact that we like Nick, and the fact that we don't want to be like you. I would never want to be like you, because no amount of you standing on some principle or decorum or whatever has done anything meaningful for this nation. So I don't care. We don't care. And ultimately, the reason why I'm responding to this video is because this guy is a perfect example of what the other side of conservatives are. They are arrogant. They are egotistic. They think so highly of themselves and think so little of everyone else, including their own sons, their own brothers, the younger side of their movement, the ones that have problems. The reason why we are at the point where we are is because we've tried to have conversations. We've tried to ask questions. Hey, why are we giving so much money to Israel? Why are we supporting them? Why are we doing all these things? And you guys don't have those conversations. You cancel us. You shut us up. You throw us out of CPAC like you did Nick. You ban people from your conventions. People who have real questions. You've tried to ostracize us to certain parts of the internet. You tried to essentially exile us, and we have returned to your doorstep en masse. And now it's a majority. The majority of the future of the conservative movement think the way we do. And like I said, people who don't even like Nick still have a lot of the same opinions. And just know, even if you don't like Nick, if you hate Nick, and if you're not a Groyper or whatever, guys like this don't care. Nick is going to become the scapegoat for the older conservatives. If you don't like Israel, it doesn't matter if you like Nick or not. They automatically will assume that you are a Nick fan. They don't care. There is no nuance to them. There is no depth. There is nothing more than black and white. They'll talk about how tribalism is bad and this is bad, but yet they'll do all the same things. This is just tribalism. They are afraid and they are scared. And all the things that he basically complained about us doing are the things they're going to do because they're self-projecting their insecurities. Their failures are going to be their legacy, but their failures will not be our legacy. Even if this country were to die, it's not going to be because of Gen Z. We're going to fight to save this nation. And right now, we're fighting against people like this. These arrogant fucks that think they're better than all of us because they have an education or because they come from an older generation. I do not give a shit about any type of education you could possibly have. You are retarded. And you do not have a pulse on the future of this nation. You do not have a pulse on Gen Z. You are not connected with reality, my friend. And that's why you struggle with all these things, because you don't live in reality. I'm not even mad at you. I understand why. you're saying the things you're saying. But you are retarded and you must be made an example of, and that's why I made this video. So what did you guys think? Do you guys agree? Do you guys disagree with this guy, what he has to say, his points? I didn't respond to everything in the video because that wasn't the point, but I did do quite a bit, so whatever. But this guy represents the other side of conservatives, and I felt the need to respond to this video and just talk about these things because they are important, and it's not stopping here. It's going to keep going. It's going to keep getting more and more intense. You're going to see a lot more people say the exact same shit as this guy in different ways and different flavors, but ultimately it's going to be the same message, which is we don't understand how things got here. Because that's basically why he feels the way he does, is because he doesn't understand. But other than that, guys, let me know how you feel about this. Let me know your opinions. Leave them below. If you did learn something or if you did enjoy the video, like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, guys, Jesus Christ is King of Kings, Lord of Lords, America first always. And I will see you all later.